Let's look at India's budget expenditure. India's last year's budget expenditure was about 10 lakh crores. 10 years ago, it was just 338,000, so it's in nominal terms tripled. But if you look at it in real terms, it's roughly doubled, because in today's currency, the budget 10 years ago was about 493,000 crores. That means the real annual rate has been about 6%. If you look at the graph closely though, the growth seems to have come in the last few years. The bulk of the increase has been over the last 4 years. In fact, the growth rate over the last 4 years was 12%, whereas if you average it across all 10 years, it comes out to just 6%. So something unusual has been happening there. Let's investigate. So let's look at the growth patterns of the various components of the plan. Interest payments clearly has shot off a bit. Central plan seems reasonably steady. Subsidies definitely shot up in the last year or two. Defense likewise, a clear increase in the last year. Central assistance seems to have been steadily growing and growing at a faster rate. Central plan, this is the planned capital expenditure. That's increased a fair bit. Social services and pensions, considerable increase. So across the board, there seems to be a number of items that have increased in their growth rate in the last 4 years or so. So which means that quite a bit of the budget expenditure is really attributable to recent activities. Let's look at some of the components here. Interest payments, single largest one. It's about 22% of the budget today, and interestingly, that's less than what it was about 10 years ago, where it was 30%. So the real growth rate is less than the average growth rate here. It's about 3%. So even though this spike over the last few years has made the growth higher, if you looked at it over the first 6 years, that is between 2000 to 2006, it probably hasn't been that high at all. The central plan, however, is a different story. It was about 10% of the budget 10 years ago. Now it's 20% of the budget. A considerable growth. In fact, it's one of the largest growing items at 16%. Now, if we look at the contribution to the increase in the budget, so that is, why did the budget go from 490,000 to 10 lakh crores, almost doubling in value? The contribution of the various items can be assessed, and that's what this row does. So we can see that the central plan has been the single largest contributor, and this is closely followed by, not closely, it's the next biggest item would be subsidies, and that's just contributing 16%. The next biggest would be interest payments, and interest payments are contributing only 14%. So central plan clearly has been the single most dominant factor in the increase of the Indian budget. Subsidies have grown steadily, though in the last few years there's been unusual growth. It's grown by about 9% on average. And items like defense, while they've been almost flat over the last 9 years, in the last 1 year there's been a sudden increase. Now, you can look through the patterns yourself to get a sense of what's happening on the budget. Hope that gives you a quick overview. To summarize, the budget has more than doubled in real terms. The main reason is the increase in the central plan revenue expenditure, and a lot of increases have happened over the last 3 or 4 years.